Hello, welcome to another episode of Bear in Mind's Double Feature Film Club. Today we are looking at musicals. This is
Yeah,
the show where we pair two films together along a theme that we think would make a fun double feature for you to watch. I bring a double feature, Matt brings a double feature, and we give you a cinema snack at the end to eat while watching them.
yeah. Interesting one today. I think obviously musicals aren't necessarily the flavour that they used to be. Cinematically, you get they're more of a novelty now than they once were.
In the past few years, aside from
Disney, really, like the mainline Disney films, because obviously you've got
I think Disney musicals are a genre in and of themselves, but they could be used for this double bill. Outside of one particular entry, the cinema musical isn't really alive. I mean, we do get a musical. They're generally an adaptation of a theatre musical. So we got Cats last year.
Or like a remake of an older film or something along those lines. Yeah. Like, because Spielberg's doing West Side Story, isn't he?
He is, yes.
He's in fact, I think it's finished filming now.
Yeah, and we've got Lin-Manuel Miranda's In the Heights coming out this year as well, which is an adaptation of his stage play.
Oh, that might be interesting. So I don't know how I feel about West Side Story. So I can't stand the original. I love musicals, but for some reason, like West Side Story just grates on me. Like,
I've never seen West Side Story. It's a big gap in my viewing.
It's predominantly white actors, slightly tanning up so that they can play various different Hispanic characters in New York in a Romeo and Juliet adaptation. So there you go. West Side Story.
Some Vita Marina, though, right?
Sorry, say again.
It is a early performance from Rita Moreno, the EGOT winner.
EGOT? What's EGOT?
Yeah, someone who's won an Emmy, a Grammy, an
Oscar,
right, and a Tony.
Oh,
not many people have EGOTed throughout history.
Yeah, I suppose they haven't. Not many have.
It's an achievement.
It certainly is an achievement. Yes. Yeah. So as we said, I mean, like in recent years, there have been some notable musicals. Obviously, like adaptations of theatre. So we've had, as you say, we've had Cats. We've had Les Mis.
A cinema musical that's unique to cinema. That is an adaptation of recent years and was massive. Would be The Greatest Showman.
Wasn't that theatre as well? Oh, it wasn't. It felt like it should have been.
Yes,
didn't it?
It's why it still feels like an adaptation of a stage musical as opposed to a cinema.
But then I suppose that's also like tying in quite well with old school musicals, because I mean, like the musicals that made musicals famous were again essentially like not early cinema, but like what we now think of as movies. So kind of 40s and 50s as opposed to 20s and 30s, when it was a lot of stage actors and stage performers. And even like you go back and you watch some of the older musicals, that they look like they're made on a stage and they're shot on a stage. Yeah. They're very like lateral with the camera movement.
There's still something very film cinema about and my two choices are very much cinema musicals. In fact,
mine definitely are
almost about cinema as well. But early, you're right in the fact that there's a very stage to the performance, but they still don't feel like a theatre production musical. They feel like they feel like cinema,
Mm,
and a lot of them were using songs from catalogs, as
yeah.
opposed to very few had songs written for the actual
Mm.
musical. They were using like a variety of catalog musics.
Which is a bit like actually the modern phenomenon of the biographical musical. So obviously we've
Yes,
had. I mean, you could potentially push the Queen one into that.
I would say that is not a musical. However, the same director's Elton
Mm,
John musical
yeah, definitely a musical.
is definitely a musical. It's also a lot better
Yeah.
than Bohemian
Um,
Rhapsody.
is
God,
it
I
the
don't
same
like
director
Bohemian
though?
Rhapsody. Pardon?
Is it the same director though? Because Bryan
Yes and
Singer
no.
had quite a bit to do with Bohemian Rhapsody. Then you've got, of course, things like Mamma Mia and its
Yeah,
sequel,
which are
which
at least the first one is a stage adaptation. Second
mm,
one, a unique
not, yeah.
beast.
But it does use existing music as the influence
Yeah,
for
Mamma Mia
the
is great.
story. Yeah, I like incredible uh,
I mean,
piece of work. That.
totally an excuse for a bunch
Mm,
of well-respected actors to get absolutely off their face on a Greek island,
yeah.
but
And then
it's great.
to a lesser extent, Rock of Ages that came
Yeah,
out about 10 years ago as well.
but yeah, Greatest Showman is a weird beast of a film.
I still haven't seen it, to be honest.
Um,
It is totally my thing, but at the same time, I think when did it come out? I think it came out while I was like the tail end of me being in Korea,
yeah,
and I'm not entirely sure it got a big release there,
I mean, it's
or if it
not.
did, I was just too busy to go and see it.
It has some great songs,
Mm,
and you get swept up in it. It's not good, but you do get
no,
swept up in it.
yeah, but I
Uh,
mean, yeah,
recently, Patrick Willems did a great video essay on YouTube for it.
mm. But then to be honest, a lot of musicals aren't good. Like, I mean,
I disagree.
the music is great and the performances are great, but overall they're like they're all right. Like, I remember seeing the Sweeney Todd adaptation at the cinema
Quite
as
like
well.
it.
I really enjoyed it, but I didn't realize quite how much, like, because that isn't just a musical. That's an opera, because there's almost no
Yeah.
spoken word in it. Like, that is a full-on opera. So that took me aback a little bit. Anyway, I think enough discussion on what the genre of musical is and etc. Shall we make a first pick? I think you can go first if you would like, James.
My first pick is a classic from 1952.
Ooh,
It is the one, the only, Singing in the Rain.
I did wonder if either of us would go for that.
It's great.
It is.
It's great.
Yeah, I mean,
It,
if neither of us went for it, I think it needed to be almost an
yeah,
honourable mention, or
if you're
a.
saying musicals aren't always good, this one is.
Mm. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, this it fits into a genre I'm a sucker for anyway.
Mm,
Hollywood movies about Hollywood.
mm.
It similar themes to your pick from last week of The Artist.
Yes, yeah.
Some great
Which, to be
songs.
honest, probably wasn't a mistake. The people who made the artist had undoubtedly seen Singing in the Rain, so there must have been some sort
Yes,
of influence
definitely.
there as well.
So yeah, it's
Um,
about the advent of talkies
mm,
in Hollywood. It's about an actor and his best friend who are feeling a bit down and out
mm,
slightly. They meet a young lady, and the actor and the young lady fall for each other after some animosity to begin with.
mm,
Now, a lot of people will say like, "Oh yeah, it's the song, it's a film that has singing in the rain."
mm,
Which, if anyone wants to watch a brilliant performance of "Singing in the Rain" mashed up with Rihanna's "Umbrella," go and watch
mm. Tom Holland.
Tom Holland's thing off the lip sync show.
Yeah, the lip sync battle.
Anytime it shows up in my timeline, I make an effort to watch it.
Yeah,
Good.
because he's a stage boy, isn't he? Because he
Yeah.
actually did another not quite musical, although obviously on stage it is. He did Billy Elliot, like before he became Spider-Man. So.
Yeah, Sing in the Rain is a great song, but this also has Make 'Em Laugh, which the choreography in the dance routine for Make 'Em Laugh between it's obviously Gene Kelly is the lead.
Yeah.
His
Is it
friend
the?
is Des O'Connor.
No, it can't be Des
No,
O'Connor.
not Des O'Connor. Donald O'Connor.
Donald O'Connor, yeah.
And then Debbie Reynolds plays the lead lady.
Yeah, the real Queen Amidala.
Also, Good Morning. Another absolutely cracking song and dance routine.
Absolute 50s banger. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, and they dance through the house as they realise they've all stayed up all night together and sing. It's a good film.
Oh, it's a great film.
I don't have a massive amount to say about it, other than if you haven't seen it, watch it.
And if you have, watch it.
Yeah.
It does what musicals should do. It makes you feel good. There's enough character as well, like and enough story. And as you say, there is a commentary on Hollywood itself. So I think it does something actually potentially for its time a little bit ahead of its time, if anything. Like I know obviously as we were discussing with the silent films last week, that like the silent films were getting a little introspective towards the end because they realized the talkies were coming. But then for a film in 52, which realistically to go back to it and have a look at it and think about it retrospectively, because like the death of the talkies was only just over.
You mean?
Sorry, the death of the silent films was just over. It was only just over 20 years prior to this film coming out. So like it's a relatively recent thing for them to then go back and think about. But then I suppose that also goes to show how rapidly culture changed in the in the 20th century.
There's also commentaries about how, and it still happens today, actors who can't necessarily sing lip sync to an actor who can sing, which is one of the main through lines of the
film. Yeah.
Of the film.
So it's still it's strange sometimes, like when you think that, I mean, it's 69 years old now, that film. And it still has some relevance to today. So, yeah, excellent pick.
I will say, as we're talking about dancing and choreography, because this film has some excellent ones, I was very, very tempted to pick, technically not a musical.
Yeah.
And in many ways, it follows the beats of a sports movie.
You see, this is where I'd argue. Oh, go on.
I was tempted to also pick what's the name of a film?
You think of one of the dance films, aren't you? Like
the dance
Save the Last Dance, or
Channing Tatum was in the first one, but I'm not talking about the first one.
Yeah, no, you're right. They do follow the beat of a sports film, as do more modern
Step Up 2.
Step Up 2, yeah. I mean, realistically, so do quite a lot of other musicals. I think one of the ones that I'll mention, in a way, has a similar beat to that, and so do, say, the Pitch Perfect films.
Yes,
at least the third
films.
Not necessarily the third one, because that's a spy film.
Films. Oh yeah, the third one is just. Yeah. I love the Pitch Perfect franchise. I went to the cinema to see the third one, and it was like I'd spent a lot of time saying, "Oh yeah, 1 is very good. 2's even better. People should watch them. Don't miss out on them. I
Yeah.
came out the third one thinking, I enjoyed it. I
Yeah.
can't defend it.
No. Yeah. Although I quite enjoyed it. I mean, I didn't go and spend money to see it. It was on.
It's
I think it's on Netflix in the UK now, and we watched it a
Pitch
few weeks
Perfect
back.
3 is watching a franchise jump for shark in real time.
But I think they knew they were doing it.
Yeah, so do I. I think like, we haven't got anything to do. Let's just
let's just we've been contractually obligated to make a third one. The box office demands it. Yeah, so let's just have some fun. And fair enough, it was a laugh. Like it wasn't great. On our patented cold light of day scale, I think it would be quite close to a 2, but one of those great 2s that actually gives you the joy of a 4, but it certainly doesn't deserve a 4. So, anyway, on to my pitch.
We are going all over the place this episode, aren't we?
We certainly are, but I mean, surely that's the joy of discussing film. Like, it's supposed to like inspire you to have discussion. So. My first one, I am not going anywhere near as far back as you are, although, far back-ish. I'm going 19 years into the future from you, to 1971, and I am going with Mel Stewart's Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory.
It is a musical.
It certainly is a musical.
I love that film as a kid.
Yep, and that's why I've chosen it. In fact, both of mine are childhood favourites, and that's why really they're linked. So when I get to my second one, that's why. Both of mine are childhood favourites. They don't necessarily have anything else in common. Other than a sense of wonder and like suspending your disbelief and things like that, because they both have slight fantasy elements to them.
Yeah.
I think the beauty of this one, especially, I mean, obviously we've mentioned the Sweeney Todd cinematic adaptation. The same team that did the Sweeney Todd adaptation also did the more recent Charlie and the Chocolate Factory film. Which
is not a musical at all.
Is certainly not a musical, and I think that's almost where
not good.
Well, yeah. If we're going to be like
some decisions were made in that film.
Well, I think the thing was that, like, obviously, in theory, Burton is perfect for making that film, and in many ways, what ended up on screen is probably closer to what's in the books. Then
books aren't creepy.
Yeah, but Wonka is. Wonka is a weird, creepy guy.
He's weird. He's not creepy. There's magic to Wonka, and deciding Wonka should be Michael Jackson-esque was a decision. And
it certainly was. Yeah, but I don't think that. But actually, I don't think that was the biggest flaw with Wonka himself in that film. What you mentioned was magical there, and that's where Charlie and the Chocolate Factory falls down, because in that film you see Wonka in the opening credits. Like, there's no mystery to the man, there's no magic to the man. He's literally just this mad, essentially billionaire. He's like Elon Musk of the chocolate world, who has just smoked a bit too much of whatever he enjoys smoking.
God, that latter version of Charlie and Chocolate Factory, that is very apt. There is an Elon Musk element to his.
Yeah, and like, because I mean, Elon Musk himself is a weird man. Like, he's both a very good person and probably a very bad person, and finding that balance.
Much in the half. He's a billionaire to start with, and there's no such thing as a good billionaire.
No, but at the same time, he's also made all of his initial employees shareholders, so they're also very wealthy. So like there's like and he is the one that's made more push towards electricity than anyone has ever done before. At the same time, that does mean a lot of strip mining and ruining various parts of the world. But like it's anyway, back to chocolate.
Yeah, all the Elon Musk fanboys show up in our comments because they're like someone is potentially speaking negatively about.
Yeah, well, I mean, saying that, if we say his name enough times, maybe YouTube will push the algorithm for us. So I'll get a picture of him in there as well, maybe with a Wonka bar behind it. But so yeah, so there's very much like an industrial sense to the Burton version, and so there's no magic. It's a bit cold. It's a bit heartless. Whereas the beauty with the Gene Wilder version, and I think it is certainly. I mean, obviously, like I mentioned the director's name, but it does feel like it's a Gene Wilder film. Like it's something. I mean, it's so much to the point that, like, when I think of Gene Wilder, I think of Willy Wonka before I think of anything else. Before I think of Blazing Saddles. Before I think of See No Evil.
Like, because he is very much full of it, odd but kindly. And when he has that shift into anger towards the end, it's so well performed and kind of.
Oh, I mean, he is absolutely supreme in this film, and I think obviously that's where, like, I do feel a touch sorry for Burton and Co. in that, like, he is that good in this film. Like, others aren't. Like, some of the other performances aren't that good. The rest of the film is as good as it needs to,
and requires that one performance to be.
Yeah, I mean, it's very much like I mean, very, very different film, obviously, but like the Joker, the Joaquin Phoenix film that came out the other year, that was an okay film with a truly phenomenal performance. Like, it's the performance is what drags it up from being just something. Like, and
I don't like the film, so it's.
I mean, in retrospect, I don't think the film is that great. I think he was absolutely phenomenal, but I think it's so. Anyway, tangents. But the so yeah, I feel like as good as Depp is as an actor, I do feel a little bit sorry for him because like matching that, it's like if someone ever remakes Star Wars, like it probably. I think it will happen. I don't know whether it should or shouldn't happen
because it's an IP generator, so they will just keep making in the world, but they won't ever remake any of the constituent components.
I don't know. I could see it being remade after we're dead, but then cinema itself might be dead by that point.
Yeah, like Star Wars, like the MCU, is just a consistent IP generator now.
Oh yeah, I know, but I mean, I think that like I could see it in like 50, 60.
We're going off on a wild tangent. This is about musicals. Let's talk about songs.
Well, I mean, there is a Star Wars musical.
But we're talking about Charlie and Wonka and the Chocolate Factory.
Yeah. So the songs, obviously full of great songs all the way through. Some of them, I think they're all as memorable as another. I think the one that stands out is the one on the boat when then they're on the Chocolate River going through the spooky tunnel. As much as anything, just because like it inspired Marilyn Manson a little bit, who obviously uses a cover of that song in one of his albums. And I think that says all that like you need to say about, again, how really, really good Gene Wilder was in this performance. That like he manages to make the magic and the pure joy that Wonka should be, and yet at the same time have that dark edge that a character such as Marilyn Manson can use a nostalgia for this film in his dark character, and it seems correct. Like, it doesn't seem like it's a warped or distorted version. It's like, oh yeah, I can see that. I can see the inspiration there. And again, I think like that is down to the. I mean, there's some wonderful world building. The sets in this film, we've talked about the sets in some of the older musicals being a little flat, perhaps, looking a bit more like a stage. This is a film, very much so. Every room has four walls, essentially, and you might not see all four walls, but it feels like every room has four walls. And obviously, Wonka's factory is just a sublime dream of it come true, with its dark little horrors in there as well, like little girls who don't stop chewing gum when they're told to, turning into a giant blueberry, and
he slowly offs all the kids till only Charlie remains.
Yeah. So yeah, great film. And again, a childhood favourite. I'm allergic to milk, so for me, chocolate actually as a child was like that thing that I never could touch, in a way. And I think maybe that little bit of the fantasy of being Charlie and being able to actually have access to the chocolate was some of the thing that kind of hit home a bit more with me. But yeah, excellent film. Reminds me childhood. Still, like, it's one of those nice nostalgia films for me, which will be repeated in the second one as well. So James, your second pick.
My second film is a My second film is a companion piece, I feel, to the first, a much more recent film. It gets a lot of flack and is kind of the butt of a joke now. And for some of the stuff, it rightfully gets flack for some things.
Yeah.
But I think it works as a dark mirror to Singing in the Rain. Even maybe a dark and gritty reboot. It is La La Land.
Yes, I had a feeling that you'd pick this one because I noticed that you avoided mentioning it earlier.
Yes, I think they work thematically very well.
I think you're correct.
Together. If one is this big kind of golden Hollywood, the other kind of shows a dark kind of depressing isn't maybe the right word, but it's a much like Singing in the Rain is a big romantic comedy, as well as being a musical. La La Land is a romance, but one with a not entirely happy ending.
Yeah.
The couple ultimately don't succeed together. As one of them rises up through Hollywood, they drift apart. Has an absolute great dance number on top of a hill overlooking the city of LA. It's directed by Damien Chazelle. It stars Ryan Gosling and Emma Stone, who always have excellent chemistry together. I think it's a beautifully shot, well-made musical, and I feel like it's a cinema musical in the same way that some of the earlier 40s, 50s Hollywood musicals are. When I say cinema musical, it's a Hollywood musical.
Yeah, I get you. Yeah.
As opposed to an adapted stage musical or anything like that. Have you seen it?
I haven't. I keep meaning to watch it. I
think you'd enjoy it.
When did it come out? I think it came out.
2016.
Yeah, so it came out when I was in Korea. It was my first full year in Korea, and I
Yeah.
have a feeling it didn't get a release, or if it did, it was like literally a few minutes.
Yeah.
Like,
Probably a lot would be lost in translation.
maybe, maybe not. I mean, it's odd what makes it to Korea, to be honest. Because what was that?
Oh, that once.
Yeah, once. Yeah, like in 2018. So the last year that I was in Korea, out of nowhere, out of the blue, we're in like the massive cinema complex that we went to. That was
Yeah.
just down the road. Had the world's largest active cinema screen in it, and being advertised well in advance was the film Once, which of course the rest of the world had been out for I think 7 or 8 years at that
Yeah, it
point.
came out in 2007.
Oh yeah, so yeah, 11 years it had been out at that point, and it was finally getting a Korean
Also
release.
a musical.
But it was yeah, also a musical, but it was getting a big release, like for like
Yeah,
this
it was
this
around the time I
oddly
was there, wasn't it?
yeah, it was weird. Like so, it was quite unpredictable, really, to see what would come out there. Because they do love music there. Like they really,
Yes.
really love music. Like anything to sing along to. Like so something like La La Land might have actually done quite well, but I can't
It's
remember whether it
not full of
like
songs you can sing along to, though. That's the thing. La La
I think
Land
yeah
songs are very sparse, is a word I'd
mm,
use. It's certainly not a feel good
yeah. I mean
time.
that might be it then.
I think it's very much designed as. I think it's built to be a dark version of
Singing in
those
the Rain.
earlier
Mm,
films. Not necessarily Singing in the
mm,
Rain, but that
yeah,
era of musical.
yeah.
It's very much a homage to them while being
Mm.
a much
I mean, a good modern pair with it then would be A Star Is Born. The
yes, that would work well
yeah,
as
because
well.
that was excellent. Like again, probably not
Which Star is Born are we talking about?
the new one.
The new one. Sorry, I thought you meant La
Yeah.
La Land would pair well with classic A Star is Born.
No, no, I meant a good modern pair with it. I said a good modern.
Yeah,
So
I'm
on similar themes, really, like
I'm
that.
very torn
It's
on my views on A Star is Born.
um
There's parts of it I rather like, and parts of it I really don't.
oh, it ruined me. Absolutely. I mean, I watched it on a plane. I was quite tired as well, but like
It's not a film I
um,
have any real desire to
I don't
watch
think I'll ever
again.
watch it again. Yeah. Because it gave me that hit
Like I said, I do
of
occasionally
sadness.
still listen to songs off of a soundtrack, so
Yeah, I mean, I think that's that for me will be the lasting effect of it. The
yeah.
actually some wonderful songs. And again, is Gaga one of the ones that's won all four now?
I don't think
Not sure if
she
she's had a
has.
Tony. I think
Yeah, I
she
don't
might
think
be
she's
missing a
got any
Tony.
got.
She probably will get one. Um, but the yeah, I think you're right. I think you could also, and again, non-musicals, you could probably throw in Mulholland Drive and Inland Empire there. The two. Uh, oh God, wait, David Lynch films.
Yeah,
Um, like, as a really odd.
yeah.
Um,
Mulholland
Mulholland
Drive.
Drive in particular,
Yeah,
but I think Inland
there's
Empire
certain
because it's the like that's a more modern
thing you
take.
would pair well with La La Land as well. Actually, not as a musical, but obviously
Mm.
just as films that would pair well together. Is it Blue? The David Lynch film?
Oh, Blue Velvet.
No, Blue Velvet's not the
No.
one I was thinking of.
Um. Oh, is it the one that starts and finishes with a
Lost
shot on a
Highway.
road? Lost Highway. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah. That would work as well. In fact, a lot of Lynch's films would, because
yeah.
I mean, he like most of his films in theory, deal with the idea of existence and relevance, and perceived reality rather than actual reality.
So, what is your second film?
My second one, is the third cinematic outing of the Muppets. The Muppets Take Manhattan.
I've not seen it since I was a kid.
I haven't seen it for a long time because it's one of the harder ones to get hold of. Actually,
I think it's definitely on one UK streaming service.
Mm.
It's either on Disney Plus or it's one of the Muppet films that's on one or the other.
Yeah, I meant physical copy, like for a long time, because the Muppets had that distribution deal with Disney, and of course Disney used to do that thing with their videotapes, where they
Disney own
take
the
them,
Muppets, don't they?
yeah, where they take them off sale for ages. The Muppet movie was on TV all the time and was available on VHS almost all the time and what have you. But the other two of its era, so The Great Muppet Caper, which was the second one, which was the one that was set in London and was like a heist film sort of thing.
Yeah.
And Muppets Take Manhattan were like rare treats almost, and I think that's one of the reasons that I like this one so much because it felt a little bit like a novelty.
Take Manhattan isn't on Disney Plus, which means it's the one that's on Sky Cinema.
Yeah.
Or Now TV.
Yeah. So yeah, it's like it's one of those. As a kid, it was a rare treat because it wasn't the Muppet movie. It was the one that like would turn up every now and again.
I think I've seen Take Manhattan more than I've seen the Muppet movie. To the level where, I mean, at one point I thought Take Manhattan was the Muppet movie.
You see, I had the Muppet movie on VHS, so it was one of those films that I may have even had a taped off of the telly version on beta as well. But so I hammered that one as a kid. It was one of those ones that like Daddy, put this on, kind of things. So yeah, so Manhattan and Caper were treats, but Manhattan was again quite fitting with your two choices. It was a musical about musicals and trying to get a musical put on on Broadway. So it was the Muppets, who at this point were quite famous. It was quite meta in a way, and it was one of those ones that was predominantly shot outside as well. Because the films that came after this, like Treasure Island, Christmas Carol, some of the other ones like Muppets from Space and stuff like that, the straight to TV ones, they were all studio based, and so they changed the aesthetic quite a bit.
Christmas Carol, that's a good musical.
Yeah, and
it's also the best adaptation of A Christmas Carol.
I mean, it's the best Dickens there's ever been.
Dickens is on record as saying that one day, I hope Muppets will star in the film adaptation of my book.
And of course, at that point, the Muppets and film didn't exist. So, that was how important culturally the Muppets are. And I think that joke does take me to another point about this. That like in my childhood, at least, I don't know how by the time it got to yours, but the Muppets were massive, and obviously paired with their tag team partners Sesame Street. The
Muppets and Sesame Street specifically was big. I also grew up through a Looney Tune renaissance.
Yeah, I think the thing is that with the Muppets, because they are real in the sense that if you were in the room you could touch them. Yes. The fact that they managed to make them real, like that when you see Kermit doing an interview on TV, like you never question that is a
That is
man with his hand
with
in
his
a
hand up.
glove.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, we've
like
said before, isn't there? There's two flavors of Muppet films.
mm,
There's films that's there's films about the Muppets.
yeah, which this is one of
Yep, and there's films that star
the Muppets.
Muppets as
Yeah,
actors in other roles,
yeah,
and it's a concept, an idea that endlessly fascinates me as a fact that, and it's like you say, we think of Kermit, Miss Piggy, Fozzie,
mm,
all as people.
mm,
So, which almost makes for films about the Muppets
yeah,
documentaries.
yeah. And that's and that's the like the fascinating thing with them, that like, especially through a child's eyes, and this is where, like, obviously I've seen them like first. You get to know them, you get to believe them, you get to think about them. Then you watch the TV shows, like, which we've of course were like, they became famous for quite classic variety TV show where again they were playing themselves. They
Which
like
was an
it
ITV
was
production
yeah
because they couldn't get funded in the states.
yeah so it's like, which is probably why it looks a lot like a British variety TV show, like a the Des O'Connor, not Des O'Connor, what's his name, the Morecambe and Wise. It looks like Morecambe and Wise, just with
Yeah,
the Muppets, or it looks like the two Ronnies with Muppets, and like
I remember that
it's.
as a talk. I remember it more as like a talk show.
I think there was.
Or I might
I
be
think there
remembering
may have
something
been a.
different.
There may well. I mean, the thing was that like there was the very early one that was in the 70s, and then there was the
Yeah,
one that came, I think, in the 90s, that was a bit more like a talk show.
that potentially one I'm remembering.
Yeah. But yeah, the very early one, like the classic one, is a Morecambe and Wise esque, like um, sketch show, sort
Yeah,
of like on stage sketch show. So, but yeah, it's just, so I think like this one for me, obviously it does tick the box of it being a musical. It fits very well actually with your theme of being
yeah.
self-referential in a way, and it just, again, it has that childhood nostalgia. I think it's culturally for people of my age in particular, and around there. In fact, maybe for people a bit younger than yourself and a lot older than me, actually, for maybe 20 years solid, the Muppets and Sesame Street in particular are incredibly important. I mean, you quick tangent to Sesame Street. They're like,
If Sesame Street is easily viewable over here anymore, but
it
when I
used
was
to
a
be on
kid,
Channel 4.
yeah, watching it on Channel
Yeah.
4 in the morning was something I did a lot.
Because, of course, in the States, it's on PBS, which is a public
Yes.
service broadcaster, and Channel 4 is a public service broadcaster. Despite having adverts, it is a public service broadcaster. So it was a nice pairing over here. But I think this, obviously, I mean, in one of our other shows about Star Trek, we talk about the significance of Star Trek over the years, of having things like the first interracial kiss on
Yeah.
American TV, and its discussion of like trans issues and gay issues and all sorts of stuff. Sesame Street does the same, but Sesame Street is firmly aimed at the like 5 and under crowd.
Yes. Well, recently,
And
a
oh,
lot of Republicans have thrown flack at Sesame Street for being political, and it's like,
yeah, I mean, it's
no,
literally
it's
always been political.
yeah.
It's never not been political. Like, it's always, like, pretty much always had an interracial cast. It's pretty much always had like various different issues being discussed. It's all like, I mean,
As
Oscar the
American,
Grouch even started as an allegory for billionaires. I
well, as
think.
American TV goes, it's in the same firm line as um, Mr. Rogers, right?
Yeah.
It's that
Mm,
it's not inherently necessarily about it teaches kids to spell and it teaches kids things like numbers, but it's
mm,
also firm about teaching kids empathy and compassion.
mm. It's teaching them how to be human beings.
Yeah,
Like, and if like it's I think Sesame Street, the Muppets, the Henson team as a whole, actually, culturally, artistically, one of the most important groups of people that's ever existed. I don't think that's even hyperbole. I think like they are outrageously important.
I'd agree.
And I think I watched one of the things I did manage to watch while I lived in Korea was that Being Elmo documentary about the guy who's. You never seen it?
No.
Oh, mate, incredible! Because he's now the lead puppeteer.
Ah.
He's now the man in the Henson team.
Yeah.
And it again, I mean, it shows the importance that they have. Because his story is so personal but so relatable to so many.
Yeah.
And in an odd way, that film is also the American dream, because like he has, like, in that you can do anything sort of thing, he does the thing that may have been perceived as out of his reach. Like, so but on that note, that's our two. That's
two
both of
double
our
bills
picks
for you to partake in and enjoy.
Yeah. I think I want to smash them together, to be honest.
Well, I've been
I'm
thinking. I think we
Hmm.
remove this section of a show.
You did mention that in
Yeah.
episode 2, but I think we can put them together with.
We can, but I like the idea of just presenting two double bills without in the spirit of Sesame Street and the Muppets.
Some inclusion.
We don't compete.
Yeah.
We just are presenting what we think is two double bills that fit the theme.
Yeah.
And our viewers should try and watch both
Yeah.
if they can.
I think personally, if you're going to whittle it down to 2, I think you could choose Singing in the Rain and Muppets Take Manhattan.
That would work. I don't think you would want to pair Willy Wonka with La La Land.
That might be a bit of a dark afternoon.
Yeah. We've gone on a. Do apologise that this episode we are clearly a little bit out of it this morning with our tangents and our. We're not as laser focused as you've come to expect from us.
No, but I think that also goes to show like how much we enjoy and how much we love the medium.
The episode we actually come with a bit of prep on our screens is the episode we go wildly off board.
Yeah, maybe that'll teach us. Don't prepare.
Yeah. But we will leave you with a cinema snack that Matt has brought this week.
Yes. So we are going to go back to the 60s for a short-lived, possibly justifiably so, cinema snack that became popular because of a little thing called French New Wave cinema, which of course started in the 50s, became quite prevalent in the 60s, influenced the likes of Spielberg, George Lucas, and all of that group of people. So Scorsese and whoever. Hollywood today, cinema today, would not exist without French New Wave cinema. And at its height, obviously was incredibly popular in UK cinemas as well. And with it came a French cinema snack, or something that was labelled as a French cinema snack anyway. I have a feeling it was probably created somewhere in London and just had a little stamp put on it. And obviously everyone eats hot dogs at the cinema. It's a stable, normal snack at a cinema. So this is a French sausage that made its way into British cinemas. That because of its shape and its colour, it was disturbingly white, with a worryingly undercooked pink centre, as French like with some of their sausages. And it was shaped like a slightly rounded cuboid. and it didn't come in a bun. It was just served on a little paper dish, so it looked a lot like a piece of soap, a bar of soap, and so it became known as Le Chien de Bain, or Dog of the Bath. So so it was yeah, Le Chien de Bain, Dog of the Bath, because it was a cuboid shaped French sausage that was white and looked a bit like a bar of soap.
It had been phased out of cinemas by the time I started going to cinemas to eat.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, like as I say, it was served a little pink on the middle, as is common with some French sausages. So there were some cases of food poisoning in some cinemas that decided to serve it just a little too pink and maybe weren't keeping them refrigerated properly. So very sad to see. They traditionally they're boiled in milk. They're not grilled. So they which is partly what gives them that white color. But a very fatty, boiled in milk, white cuboid French sausage, Le Chien de Bain.
There you go. Today's historical cinema snack for you all. Hope
Yeah.
you've enjoyed our ramblings,
Yeah.
and we will see you next week for the final episode of season 2 of Double Bill Film Club, which is a look before we go out with a bang with a celebration. So we're pairing up Oscar winners.
Oof. Difficult.
Yeah, we'll see you next week.
See you next week.